And then Deb O'Neill.
All right.
Hey, Jason, is Montana Wildlife Federation an attendee or panelist?
They're an attendee.
Thank you. That's what I thought.
And from downstairs later.
Hi, all. So we are live and running and recording actively and live on YouTube. So we should be good to go.
So is everybody on there?
As many as we have right now, Mr. Chair. I think if you want to call us to order and do a roll call, we can. check.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to Zoom 101, I think. At least for us. Let's do a quick roll call and see who's in there right now. So I'll start down the list. Cynthia, are you out there?
Here.
Oh, good. I see Dale.
Here.
Donna. Donna, are you there with us? Okay, Drew, I see.
Morning.
Eric?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep. Morning, Eric.
How are you doing?
Good. See, Everett's there. How about Lee?
Can you guys hear me in 6 yet?
Yep,
Can you see us here?
yep.
All right. Well, Lee isn't here quite yet, but at least you can see us now.
Okay. Are you really getting a blizzard?
No, not yet.
Okay. Paul's there. Ray Rugg.
Morning, Steve.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
No, your name pops up, Ray, but your voice is broken up.
Ray told me that his internet is terrible, so
Okay. Oh. So-
You're in a different tunnel than we're in, Ray, but I know you're there. Rod, I see you.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Tierney.
Morning.
I saw Rich. Yep. So it looks like Donna and Lee. All right, I guess we'll get rolling a bit. We're gonna start with home reports anyways, so hopefully we can jump back to them and they catch on right towards the end of that. So how the heck are y'all?
Good, you?
Doing good. I'm busy. I'm sure all of you are too, but this might be my hanging season.
Here. Anyway.
About to ask him not to speak.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Ray, so it's not working very good.
We hear you, but we can't understand you. You're very digital.
Yeah. I'm
Hopefully you can hear us.
maybe,
So,
hey, Ed,
yes,
Yeah.
sir.
maybe Ray could call in on phone instead on his computer.
Yep. Ray, Pat Lucetti, one of our IT folks, just sent a message and said he will be sending you the dial-in instructions so you could use a phone to call in and comment.
Okay.
Oh, that was loud and clear. Just keep it to 2-letter words. Okay, I see Donna's there now.
Yes, it
All right,
wasn't easy,
so-
but I'm here.
All right. Well, it's glad to see you, Donna. Okay, so let's start around on home reports. We're a hair behind to begin, which is unusual, but such it is with Zoom and YouTube. So let's start with Cindy. What you got, Cindy?
The only comment that I have today is on the Hunter Planner. I got a complaint about when you're scrolling on the map, all these things pop up. So that was about the only complaint right now.
All right, thanks. Dale.
You know, with the hunting season ongoing, things are pretty quiet. Heard a lot of reports, and we've heard it for quite some time about a lack of mule deer numbers, and I don't know that was consistent throughout Region 7, but there were certainly a lot of areas that I heard a lot of people talk about how few deer they saw. So that's certainly an ongoing issue. Probably the thing that have people a little worried right now is the amount of snow that we have here, and we're getting dumped on today, and this winter could be a long one. So having depressed deer populations and then coupled with what could be a very tough winter doesn't necessarily bode well. And I think some people are a little bit concerned about that, but that's about all I have right now.
Thanks, Dale. Donna?
All right. Well, I've been a little busy since we last chit chatted. So we are, it was a good season. We offer both a guided and an unguided hunt, both for resident and non-resident. So I'm very fortunate to be able to visit with both sides of the aisle, more or less. And I get questioned a lot about why is there that controversy between guided and unguided, or do it yourself, or why are there people that no matter what one side does, the other side's going to argue about? And so that's a tough one to answer, as I'm running a business. And you know, we all have our beliefs and we all believe in Montana. And I think it just made me proud to tell them about this board, that the governor has appointed people to help resolve those issues. And, you know, regardless, we may not always agree, but we're very like-minded and we're here for the same goal. So, you know, it made people walk away, and including myself, and say, you know, they were pretty amazed by Montana in that there was a program like this. So anyway, that was my biggest takeaway from the season, dealing with both sides of the do-it-yourself and the guided aspect of it. And so it really made me think on a personal level, is just to broaden my mind a little bit and think about both sides and both issues. So that's all I have. But it was a good season, a lot of snow, made it difficult to get people around. I think we'll hear that quite a bit, but it was a good year.
Glad to hear that. Thanks for your comments. And I know when we get to the survey that we went around with earlier, that comment is on there, and I think we need to address that a bit more. So thanks for bringing that up.
Uh-huh.
Drew.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Where do I want to start? I'm looking. I'll start with that mule deer one and kind of tag off of that. I attended that Region 7 mule deer meeting, and I know a few of our other panelists were at that meeting as well. And I attended the meeting, because I personally am interested, but a lot of the people that I talked to expressed lots of concerns just about habitat and animals, and there was a lot of that discussion in that meeting. So it was really interesting to see the department's history with all of the information and all the stats, and that was again, that was an interesting meeting to attend. So I guess, you know, this off season, if you guys have those meetings in your area, definitely attend them. It was worth going to. Most of my conversations, Ed, have been revolving around the upcoming session, and just a lot of apprehension and concern about, you know, potential bills. So without going into a lot of potential bills, there's just a lot of talk and angst there. And then the last thing that I wanted to just briefly discuss was, you know, we talk about the landowner and the public land user, and just, you know, some of that relationship building. And a really good example. So one of the other things that I do is I help my folks run for lack of better words, a bed and breakfast at their farm. And it's comprised of mostly do-it-yourself public land hunters. And a lot of those are waterfowl hunters. And that's something that we don't talk about here very often, is waterfowl hunting. And the reason I want to bring that up is because if you guys get a chance, maybe talk to a waterfowl hunter as opposed to a big game hunter, and ask how they get permission, because our folks that stay at the farm and hunt a lot of places, whether it's public or private, their rate of gaining access is really, really good. So maybe waterfowlers are doing something that we should all pay attention to in terms of gaining respect and getting access and things like that.
Great points, Drew. I think back to when we talked to Pheasants Forever way back almost a year ago, and their success on the upland side of how they gain access. And I think they're kind of parallel. I've got a couple of really active waterfowlers in my store, and they really have no problem. They're very personal people and very respectful of the opportunity. So definitely plays into it. And we need to remember that as we go forward. So thank you, Drew. Eric.
Oh, Region 7, where we hunt South Miles City, deer numbers were off exponentially, like maybe as high as 60% off. And then up in Region 6, the deer numbers definitely were down. The number of hunters was noticeably up. Just a ton of pressure in Region 6 due to all the public land. And the overcrowding has become a huge issue. Most of the local people don't even go out and hunt anymore here. So I'd heard, I haven't had a chance to follow up on it, but I heard through one sign-in box up on some country by the Canadian border that there was 4,000 people signed in and only 100 of them were from Phillips or Valley County. But I don't know if that's true yet or not. So, but I know the pressure was tremendous up in Sticks again. And the predator numbers are definitely taking a toll in 7 on mule deer, fawns and does, bucks, all of them. The coyotes are definitely putting a dent on the deer.
All right, thanks, Eric. Everett.
Thanks, Ed. It's been pretty quiet for me because hunting season, you're usually in the field. So not a lot that I've been interacting with others. I'll tell you my personal experience with my breaks tag that I drew. Really disappointed in my experience there. The bulls I found were either smaller or a lot of broken horn bulls for sure. Definitely not the 80 to 100 ratio that I was expecting to see. So spent 10 days and I might have just had 10 off days of hunting, but certainly did not have the experience you would expect when you spend a bunch of points to draw a permit like that. Like everybody else has kind of said about Region 7 mule deer, the ranch that I usually go hunt and the BLM around it. Talking to the owner there, it wasn't worth the 11-hour drive east. So I just did not even hunt mule deer this year. So I'm interested to see what's going on over there. I didn't have a chance to listen to that mule deer meeting that Drew was mentioning about, but I definitely want to review it and just kind of get a feel for what's next. I know the directors talked about once we wrap up the EMP that we'll be looking at mule deer. So that's definitely on the radar. And then, yeah, of course, the legislative session that's coming up and all the bills that are already in the hopper for that, generating a lot of buzz and a lot of interest. So interested to see what we all as a think tank kind of say about some of those, but also see what actually moves forward into the new year. So that's kind of it for me, Ed. Thanks.
Thanks, Everett. All right. I don't see Lee in that room yet, so unless he jumps in real quick. How about you, Paul?
Well, it's been an interesting season. I won't reiterate the lack of deer in Region 7. We had that meeting. I was on Zoom. It was I thought it was a very good meeting. At least I feel the department is trying to reach out and listen to more people, outfitters and landowners more. And they had some good explanations for stuff. They definitely said that they were going to pick up on the predator, try to reinstate their predator program, which I thought was nice. I'm hearing a lot of this talk about, and I think this kind of talk does not do any good about bringing landowners and hunters together. It's the commercialization and privatization of wildlife. I keep questioning where that's coming from. I think they keep referring to the public trust doctrine, and I don't see that in the public trust doctrine or in the North American model. But I don't think this kind of rhetoric is helping bring us together. There seems to be a great division still, and I would like to see sportsmen's groups and landowners be able to come together and work together. I think we need more landowners at participation, more landowner groups at these of these hearings, of these meetings that we're having now. Stock growers, Farm Bureau, wool growers, whatever. And I'm hearing a lot of talk on the corner crossing, which we're going to talk about later. I won't get into that, but yeah, that's kind of what I've been hearing around. Thanks.
All right, Paul, thank you. Ray, are you on the phone maybe?
Okay, can you hear me now?
We hear you
No,
pretty
you
good there.
can't.
Give her a try.
Okay. The big issue in this valley really is MKH took a big block. They had been open before. They closed it this year. And that all the locals said, because usually we're but there's been meetings and they're trying to work, something out with it. And the opinions divided. The county commissioners don't want it going to somebody else because they'll lose all the tax revenue on it and that. So, but there's still stuff being worked on it. So that's up in the air yet. So that's about the main thing down here, except for the wolves, of course.
So Ray, I think we got part of that, but maybe restate. So the big issue, the MKH took and divided, and I didn't catch that.
What had been in block management open for all hunters in that, it went actually all closed off this year. And so that closed out all the local hunters from hunting there. And it boils back down to private property, but it's still being worked on.
And was there a clear reason as to why the block was closed?
Not that I've actually heard yet, no. But and I got to admit that it was one outfitter down here that posted it all, that he had exclusive rights to it now. So.
All righty. Thank you, Ray. Next is Rich.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Rich.
Let's see. So my report. It was probably one of the worst hunting seasons I've had to be through up here that I can remember. So far, I've got 2,900 photos of vehicles gone by a few of my game cameras. I'm only up to 300 hunting vehicles so far, but I've had campfire issues, camper issues, messed up roads, broken fences, no enforcement, no game warden stops. I didn't even see a game warden on our roads this year. That's not to say they weren't out, but what I didn't see. The trespass across deeded land to DNRC and BLM land. Let's see. The hunting was good by the bird hunters. I talked to a number of them. That we have paid hunters, but we also have people that hunt a lot of the state land. They had a good experience. A lot of them are coming year after year. We have no real coyote issues, at least as far as we consider to be predation of wildlife. Other than maybe they can be maybe a little tough on birds possibly, but from what I gather around, birds were okay in talking to hunters. Cats are a huge issue. We've had cut a few tracks by our house. My wife's now carrying a pistol when she goes walking with the dogs. I've seen them hiking around. And so I've talked to Quentin Kujla about that. I think our area did get one more female added to our quota, but it's not enough. And so it's going to be affecting wildlife for sure. Just spoke to my wildlife biologist yesterday, and our elk retention is 53%, mule retention 66, antelope 60, and whitetail 64. Which by my understanding of what biologists talk about and having good habitat and good animal numbers, I would say we're doing pretty good, but that's because I think we're managing it properly. We didn't do any 454s, and we won't be doing any of those for the foreseeable future. As I look through everything, it seems to be that age-old discussion between what landowners get and what public people get as they access things. So I'll be interested to, again, as we go through and kind of work through this and see what we can accomplish through some of these programs and what we're looking at. I do appreciate what Donna said, and hopefully we can we can work through some of these things that are maybe sticklers, but that's my report.
Thanks very much, Rich. Hey, Rod. How you doing, Rod?
Good. So basically to reiterate what a couple of these guys said, deer numbers obviously low in Region 7 in areas, which a lot of areas. We did have I did attend the mule deer meeting on Monday, as did Paul, or online. Eric was there. It was a good turnout, I thought. It was very informative. The one thing we need to keep in mind on this mule deer deal, and I've talked to a couple other outfitters about this too, it's not so much the outfitted clients that are taking it on the chin with these low numbers. It's the DIY, public land hunter, block management hunter, whatever. And we need to keep that in mind moving forward, because they're actually the ones that are suffering the most. We try to manage our branches, like Rich pointed out, the best we can, but the public ground is not getting managed, obviously. Trespassing was down, I think, in some areas in our country because lack of numbers of deer. So they weren't seeing them from the roads, and they weren't doing things they shouldn't have been doing. Now my elk lease up here, there was dang sure a little more activity there, but we got that handled. So I don't know. That's about all I have.
All righty. Thank you, Rod. Tierney. Morning.
Morning. A little bit of a broken record. Just visiting with a couple of our block management people that stop us on the road and visit with us. They'd sign up, but they'd come out for one morning and then they'd leave because of no deer. So that's really all I, where we have block management, it's mostly deer hunting. So visiting with them, but that's all I have to report.
All righty. Thank you. We'll give you a little bit from the capital area. This is just a quick comment on the muzzleloader season. I continue to be impressed by how many people at the last minute get interested in the muzzleloading heritage season. Yeah, so I never thought it'd be that much interest, but there you go. I know folks are out doing it wherever they can and appreciate the opportunity to do it. I have heard some challenges and troubles with an over-reliance on the use of, for example, onX for it's your gospel to where you can go. And I think that might come on a little more as we go forward with it. And I know there's some work being done potentially coming into the legislature in regards to that. Just where folks are relying 100% on onX to tell them where to go. And it's not a tell-all. It doesn't give you carte blanche access. And I think there's that understanding. And as I use it, I certainly see areas that appear to be accessed that aren't, and that show a road that isn't. So I think that's problematic in that regard. And certainly people are using that more often now than a physical map or ascertaining on their own where they're at. So seeing that a bit more. Being in the Capitol, certainly a tremendous amount of legislative buzz right now. I did check. You're looking at 143 FWP draft requests that I can see right now. I think a lot of them are similar. And of course, when they're not drafted yet, you can't see what they are. There's half a dozen or 10 maybe where you can look it up now and see what's being presented. And they're kind of all over. There's some hunter safety, general fish and game issues, trespass, landowner preference, a lot of things we talk about and deal with. So I think it is going to be an active session. I did participate in a press release talking about this whole landowner stewardship, hunter landowner relationship. And I think you all are familiar with the Citizens Elk Migration Council. I know Eric participated with their symposium. I'm cautiously optimistic about the voice that comes from there in regards to trying to build better relationships and focus on those relationships. That was really my part in being part of that press release. I don't know if any of you saw it on the news. They did put it out there. As always, I'm constantly disappointed with the context that reporters place things in. I had one comment, and it related specifically to the complexion of the land that we've talked about being 64% private land, 36 public, and how that interaction is so critical. I do think, in my opinion, we're seeing an effort to cooperate and an effort to help carry that message forward and make this a better working relationship. To Donna's point and to all of our points, that's clearly the big thing that we deal with on this council is those relationships. So I just report to you that it appears they're making, and that's a coalition of various groups, making an effort amongst those groups to communicate that message with a better one voice. The fruit is always, the results are always going to be what we see in the next few months too. And hopefully we can all add a deliberate part to that as our council goes forward into 23. So that's kind of my home report for y'all. And I think it's really important that we have this touch base and seriously bring the things that each of you are talking. It's important. We note them. We need to bring them forward individually in the council to be able to work on those. So don't take it lightly. It's something we need to address as we go forward. We've had 1 year to build as a council, and we've done some good things, and hopefully those will come to fruition through this legislative session. And then we can continue on to make additional improvements, recommendations that we see to bring forward. So thank each of you for your time in that and paying attention in your regions. So that brings us to the next item on the agenda is our 2023 initiatives. And Stephanie sent out a survey to try to begin that process to some degree. It's certainly not all inclusive of what we might look at in the future. But I think all of you participated in that. And so I think we'll jump in right there and discuss some of those items that were brought forward at that point. So Stephanie, do you want to screen share that?
Sure, that is possible. So I will add that the survey results that we did send out did not include the comments from somebody that went in and did the survey on December 2nd. So I will probably just go ahead and share a screenshot of SurveyMonkey so that we can see everything.
That'd be great.
Let's see here. All right, let me know when you can see it. Oh, there we go. Right. So the first question was really thinking ahead to 2023 and asking what the top 3 goals or tasks should be considered for the group. So if you have your responses in front of you, the one response that you don't have is that one from December 2nd, and that's on the screen right now. If you want to take a moment to read it, and then Ed, if you want to just chime back in to lead the discussion around that 2023 piece.
So I think Ray can't see that, would be the only one. So maybe I'll read it. What do you think?
Sure.
The number 1 goal the PLPW should be getting, and a reminder, this is a one comment, and there's more, so some of those might be in here too. The number 1 goal the PLPW should be getting more landowners involved in the process. After all, landowners are the key to improving access to private land. groups like the Montana Stock Growers, Farm Bureau, World Growers, UPOM, and individual and independent landowners, to include traditional and non-traditional, should be brought into our meetings. This year, the council heard several times from sportsman groups, some of which were invited and some presented on public comment portion of the meeting. Individual landowners are extremely busy at the time we are holding our meetings, making it nearly impossible for them to attend. The council needs to make an effort. Otherwise, the PLPW won't be able to come up with solutions that will be accepted by landowners. One of the main obstacles to landowner-hunter relations is because some of the sportsman groups are constantly attacking landowners. PLPW should encourage these groups to be willing to come to the table with solutions that work for landowners. This also applies to some of the FWP personnel who have refused to work with landowners in the past. PLPW should encourage FWP to work with landowners to resolve issues instead of trying to find ways to leverage landowners into allowing access. As we discuss, there needs to be an online app for the block management sign up. I'd suggest that there is the development of a type 3 coupled with this type 3, where it gives priority to hunters that have completed the Master Hunter course. All right. So a lot of those components are replicated in some of the other comments. So maybe we'll just run through those briefly and then start some discussion on it. So the second, number 1, elk management plan. Number 2, mule deer management. 3, antelope management in Region 7. Next comment, PALA agreements. Better block sign up and possible increase in payment. Landowner stewardship program advancement. Ideas for reverting private landowner leasing, which will affect public hunting. More tags for landowners. 1 tag to a landowner for 3 tags to public is backwards. Better awareness of state land access rules. More biology focus on wildlife management. Next is promote education video, promote 454 and block management pay. And I really have one main goal. I would like to see more of the Montana resident hunter understand the hardships of local small business and the challenges of being a rancher. If they don't, and outfitters are forced out of business and ranchers have to sell their properties, then we will have an even larger access problem. Number 1 goal, more respect for all parties of this 3-legged stool, sportsmen, ranchers, and outfitters. Next, continue to work towards improving block management program, specifically increasing the amount of funding for each hunter day, pushing for an online reservation system, looking at another type of block management that would incentivize groups of landowners to allow for greater access during elk during the regular and shoulder seasons. And 2, to continue to push for greater opportunities for general hunters on approved 454s. And 3, refine and update the landowner hunter stewardship classes and training. Next comment, see the hunter landowner stewardship course updated, produced, and implemented. 2, in whatever ways needed and productive, to have the council at the ready to address 23 legislative issues that may arise. 3, look more deeply into what improvements are needed for block programs in enhancing the quality of each block. What would it take to do this? Next is open more land for public access, development of electronic sign-in, better use of 454 and PALA. Next is mule deer management, elk management, and getting FWP to manage antelope in Region 7 by area instead of region wide. And then the last is to begin the dialogue on corner crossing. So there's a fair bit of overlap. I think we'll stick with that part, Stephanie. So looking at this in regards to initiatives for us to work on next year, I think that was the real goal of this activity here. And I might just wrap up a couple, I think in regards to the, obviously the block management cap is in the works. We'll hear about more of that later. That's already in process. So I think that recommendation clearly is going forward. And second is the changes to the 454 program. Those are in process at this point in time also. So I think we can check those boxes, and certainly we want to watch them as we go through the legislative process, that they continue to head in the direction that's productive to these programs. And if I might just take the liberty, thinking about what Donna said, and these comments are in here a number of times, and this big push in 23, one of the, if I can take the liberty to say it, one of the things I think we need to really work on it, and it, where it goes, I don't know, but is in regards to this three-legged stool, the obvious charge that we have of dealing with the relationships amongst landowners, sportsmen, women, and outfitters. I think we've talked a lot about that. I think we would be well served to set that as a specific priority for 23 and see where we can go with that. Because it is the critical aspect of what we do. When you don't even have to talk about creating more access. You just have to talk about the relationship and how we improve that relationship. So having read all these, but the first one quite a few times, what do you all think about that as a key priority for 23? Whoever would like to speak to that, please do.
Well, I guess I'll speak to it. I'll turn my video back on. I think we're on the right goals there, and we are headed in the right direction. And I think for resolving anything, working as a group, working together, coming up with solutions was our charge. And I think that you're on the right track there, and I would agree with you.
Thanks, Donna. Additional input on that?
Yeah, Dale, I think I would say that was kind of the onus of our conception back in the 90s, right? To kind of improve those relationships. And I think that they've definitely become strained. And I think this is the safe place to talk about those kinds of things and what might be contentious, but could promote understanding by having those hard conversations. So I think making it a priority to develop and strengthen those relationships is really good. I think the Hunter Landowner Stewardship Project is trying to do that as well. And maybe there's a way that we can be more robust in that approach, or more pointed in that direction, just focusing on the relationships. We've got a lot of programs we talk about with access. We talk a lot of things about trespass and hunter behavior. And I think all those are really symptomatic of that bigger question of how can we just make these relationships better. So I think that's really key too.
Thanks, Everett. Who else? Anybody else want to comment on that one? So I think, our goal here is to bring these forward to February and then really refine them. A number of the comments in the next question are about the process that we use in the council and not having too many items on the agenda and being able to dive into one more thoroughly. So I think we should come with a number of these that we think are critical. And then in February, we need to, sift through those. And there may be others that you would bring between now and then, but you would need to bring it between now and then in advance of the February meeting, if we have a February meeting, which is coming up. So everybody good with this as one priority objective? Important? Okay. All right.
Director's on.
Does the director have any comment? I see. Welcome to the director, Warsek.
Well, thanks, Ed. Yeah, no, I just tuned in, so I really don't have any comments yet, but yeah, I shut my ugly face off so you guys wouldn't have to look at me. That's what I was just doing when you asked if I had any comments, so.
All right.
At this point. Is there any
We know
questions?
your time.
Go ahead.
We know your time's very full right now, so if you need to jump in, feel free.
Yeah, I am gonna have Deb at 10 o'clock go over legislative stuff. And, I do, when we start talking about, I did do some more thinking about what you and I talked about the other day, a possibility of a mandatory training for block management. And I do want to vet that more and look at that and see what is required. I want to talk to legal and see if that what kind of action it takes to get that done, somewhat like like the bear hunting test. Something like that, a shorter test, but really drive that point home, because I've been thinking a lot about it since we talked last time on this, and I think it makes some sense. So it'll be interesting to have that discussion with the group a little bit later. So whenever you think we should talk about that, let me know.
Yeah, so maybe that would be within these other comments. We're kind of on a certain course right now that's pretty broad with hunter education on that hunter landowner stewardship program.
Right.
So as a group, do we want to bring that forward into February? I do think there's a number of legislative things that are going to appear in that same vein. Who knows where they'll go? Right.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too, is I don't know what's going to happen this session. There's a lot of bills out there with just say change FWP or, a ton of LC out there. So I don't know what's going to come about it. And I know there's one for hunter education. I've talked to Representative Durham on some of that stuff too. So.
Yep.
But this would, I don't know, I'm going to ask legal. I don't know if this would require any type of legislation or something that can be done by the commissioner or just by me on this is something to do, but then we can talk about it more, but.
Okay. So maybe for right now, well, I guess we put that on also on a top list for February.
Yeah, that would be fine.
How about the rest of you? I mean, we've started this program and it is all interconnected. By program, I mean, working with the department. ComEd is working on developing a new program by July, I believe, have something fleshed out, if I remember our notes from the last go round. Maybe we're at a point where we can look at that more thoroughly at that point in February.
Yeah, I think that would be good, and get it kind of ready and look at it, because I've got a meeting with Rick Lemon and Wade tomorrow. And I want to talk to him about some of the hunter education stuff and some of these things. And I also want to, I think, like we've talked about before, I want to get some more stuff into the hunter education curriculum, talking about how to deal with landowners, and even from our block management part of it, some of the things where my mind has been going is we do a really good job of putting this book together, but there's some people that want to be talked to in person, some that don't, and some that want to be called, some that would just want to sign out boxes. So how do we kind of tailor this to the landowner as well, do a little bit better job with that? Because once again, this is a privilege, it's not a right. And these people are opening us into their homes per se to hunt on their property. And how do we get more respect to that? Because, you know, you've heard me say several times that it's, from my perspective, it's one of the best tools we have, but it's been detrimental to landowner-sportsman relationships because we've created a path of least resistance for almost 3 generations now. And people are away from this. So I had a long talk with the chair last night about the same issue. You know, and we're seeing that, you know, there's a lot of issues that we're hearing from the CECs and things like that, where people are cutting fences, cutting heads off of deer and stuff like that on block management property. And we gotta pick it up before we lose it. So we gotta police it a little bit better. So that's kind of my perspective, if that feeds into your discussion right now or not. But,
Okay. Well, thanks, Director. We appreciate that. So I guess education, we'll just have that in the broad sweep to develop more thoroughly. And I know we've talked about it a lot, but we need to put some real clear brackets around this and seriously consider how to make it the most effective, at least for our recommendation going forward to the department. Okay, so again, considering those bullet points for 23 goals, what other ones would you like to bring to February to delve into?
This is Rich Roth.
Okay, Rich.
I think as we look at legislative session, I think a couple things that I had, and I don't know if I can remember if I put them on there, but certainly the enforcement issue, DNRC, BLM, and FWP have all kind of, pardon the way of putting it, I feel like it's just pressured us up as landowners to provide more access. And yet all of these lands that are being managed, then there's no one enforcing those. Like I told you, I didn't see one FWP or warden out in my area all season, and I live here. And that's not to say they weren't. I'm just saying I didn't see them. I also, when I had issues with campfires being built on the side of the road and campers being left over 2 weeks at a time, I was told by the region, I think, well, the Havre office, that I needed to contact DNRC because that's a state issue, not a wildlife issue. And that's fine. But DNRC has no enforcement either. So it's kind of like, well, I guess there's nothing I can do. So I think it's more of a big picture thing that FWP, BLM, and DNRC need to be collaborating on these issues that involve a huge push for public access to, whether it's deeded land or even public lands. I mean, our county roads are getting trashed because nobody cares what the weather's like during hunting season. I got my 2 weeks to hunt, and I don't care whether there's 10 feet of snow, 4 feet of mud. I'm going in there because it says I can, and I don't care what it does. And that's all well and good for the week or whatever that people are there. But then the rest of us that live in these counties and have to deal with this mess are left for the rest of the year. So I think enforcement is a big issue that should be carried forward. And I just like to add one other thing too. And I think I really like Everett's talked about this before, just because I have the floor a little bit. I love the technology aspect of what he's been promoting, and it seems like has been kind of behind, because I think these apps, whether it's for wolf kills, cat kills, mule, whatever, any type of harvest, it's not that someone has to say, where they got their favorite deer from or whatever, but the data could be collected through some of this technology and then used by the biologists to determine areas where things have been way over hunted, or maybe the habitat's been ruined, or maybe predators are overtaking. The use of technology, and I think hunters look at the people that use Onyx. I think hunters, recreationists would really value the technology advancements in that too. So to me, technology, because it ties into so much other management, is a huge thing. And then, like I said, enforcement.
Great comments, Rich. Thank you. Others in that same vein that want to add to that? Okay. Yeah, I just kind of wrap that with the ability to have that, when you look at enforcement, Rich, it's a tricky game. How does that happen? I mean, there can be self-policing, there can be FWP wardens, BLM, law enforcement, Forest Service, law enforcement, all those parties. I still think you have to get people to police themselves somehow. And I know that's maybe not always going to happen in the best way, but I think conscientious hunters want good stuff to happen on your property if they're there, and they want it to happen well on public land too. So
Yeah, and
I think combining technology with it is probably the key.
Yeah, and I would just follow suit with what Director Warshid said too. I do think education is key. I think it still stays on the table. I'm a huge proponent of that, clear down to kids in really great, or in middle school or whatever, that can first start. I'm really big promoting education, because I do find that especially out-of-staters, they know nothing about state land laws. They know very little about any of that stuff. So certainly the continuing education, I'm a huge proponent of.
Okay, I believe Director Warsek, did you have a comment?
I did, but I think Drew had his hand up first, so.
Okay. Oh, I see him there. Okay. Go, Drew.
Trying to raise my hand. Appreciate the call there. Yeah, Rich, Director, definitely agree on the education, and would love to see continued education added in for adults. I know I've beat that dead horse, and I'll continue to beat it. Hey, Rich, will you expand? Just you mentioned something. You said you're feeling the pressure. Maybe this is not exactly what you meant, but you said you were feeling the pressure from agencies to allow access. Can you describe, like, is that like somebody physically calling you or messaging you, or is it just kind of a perceived feeling?
I don't think it's so much perceived, Drew. I mean, I think if you probably had talked to Director Warsech or the head of DNRC and head of BLM, I mean, their big pushes, their big initiatives are public access. And so I don't think I'm speaking out of turn there. Maybe Hank, you could say more to that. And I don't have BLM here. I met with them this week down in Billings at our Stock Growers Convention, and access to lands for recreation, whether it's sightseeing, UTVing, whatever it happens to be, is just really big on people's minds due to the wake of COVID and people moving to Montana, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think it's, like I said, maybe it is a perception, but I think it's more reality.
You good, Drew? Okay. You're hidden behind me. Director?
Yeah, so I'd, first of all, to Rich, yeah, I do appreciate that. That's one of the issues we do have, is we've got, limited amount of wardens, and you're absolutely right. DNRC, we end up doing a lot of the work for them and things like that. So we do have a new chief of enforcement. And one of the things, the charge I've given him is to make sure we work with landowners. We're out there. We're out as much as we possibly can doing our work that we've done in the past, and continue doing that. But there's just a lot of area to cover, a lot of things to go on this thing, and we'd like to get more staff, but that's not as easy as it sounds sometimes. But the other thing too is a lot of these things, when we're dealing with trespass or other issues with that, a lot of it is at the county attorneys, and I'm not throwing blame. It's just what the reality of it is. And if it's not a case that they've got so many cases on their book, when they come forward, we're talking about trespass. They can care less about it compared to like, a child crime or a murder or something like that. So we've tried to reach out to the courts of limited jurisdiction and talk about these as being victimless crimes, and get some more effort and work with them on that. So we'll continue to push that. But if you're hearing those issues, let me know that we're not covering like we should. I want to know about that, Rich. And there is a push. There has been since I've been here for access. It hasn't changed. I mean, we've seen block management, we've seen PAL agreements. We see this as legislation coming in more ways to get access, And from my chair, we've got to manage wildlife, and the way to manage wildlife is by harvesting a bunch of them. And how we got to harvest them is try to get access to them. So it's a multifaceted thing. I hear all the time that don't count the elk if they're on private land. Well, I don't have the luxury of managing elk where I want them to be. I have to manage them where they're at, and that's where it gets difficult. So that's what I love about this group, and I love about all these groups trying to work on these problems, because it's a hard it's a hard nut to crack, and we've got to get a bunch of different ideas coming together to do that. So I appreciate all that, but yeah, there is going to be a push and continue to be a push to get access because we need to get animals harvested. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Director. Any other comment on that recommendation or that goal for 23? So that's enforcement and maybe commingle with technology, but specifically, how do we deal with those issues? Okay, seeing none. Who has a comment for another 2023 goal that's outside of what we just discussed? What, Dale?
Mr. Chairman and others, what we've talked about so far, I don't disagree with, but I also look at those topics being something that's more ongoing, and there's not a clear-cut, tangible product that's going to be produced. I mean, to talk about improving enforcement, I certainly am in agreement with Rich and others on that, but what is the product other than, okay, we encourage BLM and DNRC and Fish, Wildlife and Parks to spend more time out there? I don't know that there's something that we can produce. It kind of goes the same with the landowner hunter relations. There's some things we can do, but it's really kind of a continuing dialogue. The one thing I would like to see us continue to work on is move towards improvements in the block management and other programs where the online reservation system, one thing we haven't talked a lot about, but I think there's a need for consistency in the block management program amongst the regions. I think the way some regions handle sign-ins is different than others. The information that's provided, where you go to get that information, how acres are reported, how properties are illustrated. There's just changes out there, and it's confusing. I mean, if somebody goes to one region and they ask for information on a block management area, just the process and the information that's provided to them can be very different than another region. And so I'd like to see us to continue to work in that arena. We've had past discussions on is there another block management, another type of block management that we ought to be looking at. One, I know right now there's an incentive for people to group their allotments up or their ranches up, and they get an increased payment. But I think this group might be able to come up with some ideas on, hey, here's another type of block management that might benefit harvesting more elk in the shoulder seasons or during the regular season. And there's a lot of knowledge on and a lot of experiences on this council, and I would like us to delve more into that in 2023. Thank you.
So if I shake that down, Dale, what I hear is a deeper dive into the block management program and how to enhance it as it exists, potentially even with the type 3 or whatever that might be. But is that it in a nut?
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's pretty well reflects my thoughts, Ed.
Okay, thank you. Everett?
Yeah, just continuing on with the 23 ideas to cover. I don't know if I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for what I'm about to say, or if I'm going to become a pariah in some way, but here goes. I would love for us to start the conversation on corner crossing here at PLPW. I think we've got the correct makeup with people here and relationships built over the past year that we could possibly start to have a conversation here. I know in the sportsman world, the fervor for a solution to corner crossing it is continuing to grow. It's not dampening at all. I look at what's going on in Wyoming and the court cases that are happening there and what impact that might have at a federal level that might impact us here in Montana. I know there are some groups that are even willing to foot the legal bills for those that are willing to push into legal/illegal gray areas. And for me, I would like to hear and understand perspectives from all of us on the issue, concerns that are there, compromises that might be able to be made. I would love to see us find collaborative approaches to what's seemed to be a really contentious topic. And instead of it being forced to the courts, I think one side would certainly lose over another. So I don't think that we're going to find concrete solutions overnight, but I really think finding some starting points to talk about this, to provide context, I think this is the place to do it. I would like to see us lead in that way as a group.
Yeah, I don't think that needs more explanation. Any other comment on that one? Okay. Seeing none. Additional items for the slate.
Ed?
I see the director's hand is up.
It's been up, yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. So real quick on two things. One of the things that I don't know if you guys have talked about it or not, but what I always hear when I tune in on this, and I've always heard forever on the block management, is how do we make it better for the block management users? The technology, the different things like that. Do we talk to the the cooperators, and what do they need? I mean, what is going on with that, and find out what they want to see on this thing. They're the ones that are giving this stuff up. We're the ones using it. So we can always make it better for us. Have we done that dialogue with those block management cooperators to see what they want to be tailored as? You know, what works for them. Because I see is it's pretty one-sided is what I'm hearing on this. And we keep on telling them you need to do this, you need to do this, we need to have reservations done, we have to have that. Those are all good ideas, but have we reached out to the sport or the landowners and talked to them about it? So that's one of the things I'll charge Hope and crew to do is find out what they need from this thing too. Because I think we're quick in these groups to talk to the sportsman's needs, not the needs of the landowner. And they're the ones giving this stuff up. The other thing on the corner crossing, that's going to be an issue at the session. I don't know how much this group should be involved in that. You know, that's going to take on a life of its own. There's no question about it. And I think it's good for you to discuss it, but I don't know what you're going to do about it, other than support how they bring it forward. And I'll probably get hate mail too, Everett, so don't feel bad. But yeah, that's kind of my perspective on this. This is going to be there's going to be a lot of issues this session that are going to come out, and until we deal with them, I don't know how the PLPW plays into those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great comment. You know, we started the year with block management cooperators, at least a few, but I think we need to, as we look back into block, it's probably a great idea to go back and invite a few who have a variety of operations to do that. I think it'd be a great look. I see Rich's hands up.
Hey, really quick, and then but because we probably don't have to. I am huge. So I do the block management thing. You know, Hank, I do think from landowners when we were in it, the things that I really enjoyed about it were obviously, you know, they came out, they put a bunch of signage up, they put things that made it easy for hunters to know where to go, what to do. So I think, you know, as much as possible, the signage and all that type of stuff. Also, what we seem to have during that time, and it just, I guess that's how it goes if you're not in block management, but the enforcement was there. Having a block management area meant that there were game wardens around throughout the year or throughout the hunting season, which from a landowner perspective was was really good. The only reason I left it and have is because of the financial aspect of it. But other than that, there were some really good things with the program that on that side.
So Rich, do you know how much you can get now?
Not what I'm getting the other way.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Additional items to put forward to February? I don't think I see any that we haven't brought up. So no additional comments in that regard, Rich?
I'm sorry, and if it's not the right forum for and this was one thing I thought, because I did the spectrum of our thing, is the county roads, and the maintenance of those, with just the sheer impact of the number of hunters we're seeing in these counties during the hunting season, and just what's happening to our roads. This may not be the right forum. So that was the only other thing from as far as legislatively, I'm talking to some different legislators about how to work for some way for FWP or anyway to help with county roads. This may not be the right forum, but I just wanted to pass it out quick.
So noted. And I'm not exactly sure how we would, but it's certainly worth looking at. Yep. Director, did you have another comment? Oh, I see Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I had a couple of comments that, on enforcement. I think the sportsmen are a little bit at fault, or the hunters are a little bit at fault, because they need to start, if they see something, they need to say something. And I think they need to start policing their own ranks. I think a lot of times they just turn a blind eye to these violations. And if they would start helping out with that enforcement, that would be a big plus. I think Hank's Director Warsack's actually right about getting landowners involved in block management more, see what they have to say. I think that's not just in block management, but I think that's in every aspect that we look at here. And the third thing I want to bring up, I know we focus just on legislative sessions and stuff like that, bills and what we can do in the legislature. I would think that, why are we looking at the season setting process? Why aren't we putting comments in for the season setting process, which is coming up next year? I think that would be part of our charge, to put in comments and recommendations for some of the season setting. That's all.
Thanks, Paul. Any additional comment? So wrapping this part up and going forward, what I see is 6 is what I've noted. We'll see, maybe Stephanie has something different, but the relations, the three-legged stool, understanding, I think in deeper dive in that, into the understanding of the operation and the needs of ag operations business. The education piece, which is engaged already, but additionally, the question of enforcement, technology, deeper dive into block programs as they exist, and then Everett's corner crossing as an item. Is that correct? Stephanie, do you have that?
Yep, that's exactly what I have as well.
Okay. So, and in keeping with comments we've had about how we make agendas productive, I think we need to sift through this a bit and see how we can prioritize it. So if it's good, if any of you have any thoughts on that regard, please send them my way. We've noted these, they will be brought forward. And maybe there's a best way to bring them forward in a certain order for 23. So I just invite that input or comment from you between now and then. Okay. That sound all right? I don't want to rehash the same stuff again, but I don't think we've dealt with any conclusive action or recommendation to the specifics of these. And obviously they're all completely intertwined. So how we go about them is going to be the trick for us. Okay. So we have a few more minutes to look quickly at meeting dates. Again, we did the survey to see where everybody's at and look at months that seem to be the most open for folks, realizing that it's never perfect. And so maybe, okay, that's up. So this is kind of a tentative schedule. You know, obviously the first couple meetings would be closer in focus and more likely to be on time, but it's kind of a quick look from now through August onto where things might fit in, and in conjunction with the survey as to best months. So February is the first go. And we kind of, with the legislative situation, I guess, kind of up in the air on this half-day Zoom, full-day meeting. I know I had comments in regards to this meeting being half-day in Zoom, but there's going to be a lot going on. So the proposal really is to do a Zoom meeting again in February at half a day. So any comments on that? I can't see if hands are up. So if your hands are up, just speak up.
Rich is giving a thumbs up.
So if there's no hands
Rod's
raised,
got a thumb up.
I see that as thumbs up.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. So thumbs up for February 17th. I propose suppose you're all looking at your calendars, right?
Friday.
That's a Friday.
Right after Valentine's Day, just making sure no one has plans.
Okay, I needed to get there too. February 17th, Friday, February 17th. Everybody on board there? Okay. All right, then looking down the road, this is probably around the time when things will be done or wrapping up in the legislature. Is that accurate? Close?
Yeah, April 25th. I think that'll be the final week of session if they don't end early.
Okay. So the 25th of April, and that is a Tuesday. In person, and we'll determine a location at another date.
Ed, Dale here.
Yeah, go ahead, Dale.
If the meeting's on the 25th, I won't make it, but that's always going to be the case, and I understand that. But if that's the last week of the legislative session, would there be merit in maybe moving that to the following week? And just from other councils I've been on, between the department, just running so hard that last part of the session, and then in terms of trying to assimilate all the information that comes out of that last week, I'm just wondering if we might be better off to move that to the following week sometime.
Any other input on that from staff?
Hank's got his hand up.
Hank?
Yeah, I would agree with.
Director.
I think he brings a really good point. So.
Okay, so we should look into May, the first week of May. So I don't know if we have specific dates available in May. that we want to put up there, or should we just say first week of May at this point? So
Just
May
move
1
it-
is on a,
Move
go
it a
ahead.
week. Move it to the 2nd. That's the next week. It's a Tuesday.
Mr. Chair, Deb O'Neill has her hand raised. She's one of our legislative liaisons.
Okay,
Hi.
go ahead, Deb.
Thank you. Right now, the session calendar goes through they just modified it. Right now, the session calendar goes through the week of May 8th.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I think our council is probably more flexible. So where do we go with this? To schedule a tentative April, May date at this point? Guess I need your guidance on that.
We could take a minute and regroup staff wise, looking at calendars and what makes sense and get a date out to you. We
So-
could do a poll even if we needed to.
Okay, so I think we'll leave that one to come back to in a poll in that time period. So the last part of April, first part of May, if everybody's good with that. No objection. And then again, part of that too is trying to be ahead of June, but we're looking at a June time to be determined essentially after May or April, which it might be. So I think going forward, we're pretty vaguely open to where we go. Is everybody okay with just doing that for right now until we can fill in these blanks? If I don't hear any opposition, I'll assume we're good.
And I'm not in opposition to it, but if we move our meeting that was scheduled for April 25th, even to after the legislative session, which I'm hearing and seeing some thumbs up for. So let's just say potentially we meet that somewhere around the 15th of May, and then we turn around and we have a meeting in June. I guess I'm wondering if that's too soon. Maybe we'd be better off to have a day and a half meeting in May, not have the June meeting, and then go to August.
Yeah, that could be fine, Dale. I think, I guess with all this in mind, we know we're gonna have a February 17th meeting. And we'll tentatively look at that second meeting for May. Maybe we want to see what's coming and what we might have presented to us through that legislative session. And I recognize and respect that it's not all legislature, as Paul mentioned. There's a lot of other things we do that have nothing to do with that. So there may be some things that we want to deal with that the department has made strides in regards to the landowner stewardship course update, all these things that are already in motion that are not legislative. You know, it may be that we still want to meet to take care of those at that time. So I guess we'll just kind of leave these dates somewhat open, knowing that we're going to have a meeting potentially in May. And certainly August. Okay, we good with that? We didn't solve much there except February 17th, so that was great. Donna, any comment? I see you. Nope. Okay. All right. So are we gonna go right to the director now, or some of the updates from staff?
I think the intention was to have Stephanie and Jason provide the updates.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really this part of the agenda is really just wanting to outline some of the things that we'll just continuously update the council on in 2023. So right now, all of the access managers are here at a retreat, and we've been working on some really great topics. This one menu idea, we've been talking about PLFAs, and also looking at some of the needs that have been detailed already. So just really that opportunity to have some time in 2023 to provide updates from our perspective of the work that we're doing that complements some of the initiatives that have been highlighted.
Okay.
Yeah, or I'll also just add, if there's anything specific that the members would like us to come forward and share throughout 2023, we're happy to do that as well. So that might be something that we come back in February with, if there's other areas that you'd like information on or consistent updates, just really identifying that and those topics.
Anybody have any input on that at this point? What you'd like to see? Director?
Yeah, quick question for Stephanie. So this year we're going full court press, and we haven't had it in several years where we have the banquets or whatever you call it for the cooperators, correct? We're gonna be putting that front and center again.
That is correct. The landowner appreciation dinners
Right.
will be happening again this year.
I want to make sure that the PLPW members get a kind of a schedule when those are going to be and where they're going to be at, because I'd like to invite them to them as well.
Absolutely.
This would be a good opportunity to kind of interact with that and see how those things work.
I think that's a great idea too. So we'll make sure that happens, and
Yeah.
we'll get those details out here
Yeah,
soon.
And make sure I get a copy of that too, because
You bet.
we are going to invite the governor to at least one of them.
Okay. Very good. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else in that direction? Eric?
No, I don't have anything.
Oh, okay. Sorry, clicked up there.
That's because I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, I think better of that. Okay, so I think 10 o'clock is legislative preview. I believe Deb O'Neill is ready. Are you ready for us, Deb?
I hope so.
Great.
Of course she is.
Director, did you want to say anything first or?
No, Deb, go ahead and hit it.
Okay.
Same thing we did as Brown Bag, basically, so.
Yep. Okay. Well, just hello, everybody. My name's Deb O'Neill. I'm Special Projects Manager for Fish, Wildlife and Parks, and also Legislative Liaison. This is my third session as a liaison. And the director asked me to go ahead and present the bills that we're going to be bringing. As you guys know, we bring certain bills throughout the year between sessions. We notice things in our day-to-day operations that may not be accurate in statute, may be out of date, may be irrelevant, may need changing just in how we operate day to day. And so we track those things, and we bring them forward as cleanup bills generally for the upcoming session. We bring them to our interim committee, the EQC, and the EQC gives thumbs up, thumbs down on us bringing these forward and pre-introducing them, finding a sponsor and getting them in. As you know, most of the bills that do come forward are not FWP bills, and I only have one. I'm in a hotel right now, so I only have my little tiny computer screen in front of me, and so I'm going to be going back and forth. So I will not be able to see you if you're raising your hand. So hopefully, Hope can monitor that. But I am going to look right now to see. So right now we're bringing 14 bills forward, and right now there are 143 introduced and unintroduced bills. So obviously 14 are ours, and the rest are either placeholders or drafts have been requested by legislators. We don't know what those are yet. You know, there's a short title out there. We really don't know anything about them. And certainly a lot of these won't come forward, but right now this is the most we've ever seen at this stage before session. And like I said, there's 143 placeholders out there. As I go through these, they're not very, they might not be exciting bills. They're like I said, mostly cleanup. I cannot see you guys at all, so hope please jump in if there's a question. And feel free to ask me as I go through these. You don't have to wait until I'm done with these, but I'll go through all 14 and I'll pause after each one to see if there's any questions on these. So the first one, as you know, that we have started doing electronic validation for game animals or turkeys. So that means, you know, using our phone for validation of tags. We only, did somebody have a question? I heard some. Okay. We only allow in statute right now for game animals or wild turkeys. And what we're seeking to do is amending that statute to include any species for which a carcass tag is issued. This doesn't mean we will definitely do it. It means we will be allowed to do it in the future. So this includes paddlefish, it could include wolf, but for any species that has a carcass tag, we will allow for electronic validation in the future. Any questions on that?
No hands.
Okay. And bear with me as I jump from screen to screen here. Okay. The next one also has to do with tags.
Deb?
Yes.
Sorry, Paul Ellis raised his hand.
Sure.
Do you have LC numbers or bill numbers yet for those that we can track them?
We do. And maybe Hope, can you
could
put
give those, I would appreciate it.
Yep. Hope, can maybe you put that link in the chat?
Sure. I'll have to email it to everyone. We have the chat disabled, but I can share that.
Sure, sure. And I'll say the LC as I start for you, Paul. All right, let me get back to that page. So that last one was LC 0734. This one is LC 0735. And this has to do with requiring a paper license to be attached to a game animal. Right now, we require that a paper license is attached. And obviously, if we e-validate, we don't require that the phone be attached to the animal. So given that there's been issues with paper tags being ripped or getting wet or things like that, we've decided to amend this statute and ask the legislature to just have the tag accompany the animal. So it could be in your pocket, just like your phone. It does not have to be attached to the animal anymore. Okay, moving on. This is LC 0736. Last session, we removed the weight requirement between purchasing a license and harvesting a black bear or a mountain lion. We removed the weight requirement. The only species that there's a weight requirement for purchase of license and harvest is a wolf, and that's a 24-hour weight requirement. And we are suggesting to remove that requirement to just be consistent. Enforcement brought this forward. They do not think it's an issue. So we are asking the legislature to remove that weight requirement for wolves. Okay, this is LC 0737. Right now, we do not have unmanned aerial vehicles, or otherwise known as drones, defined as an aircraft. And so we are seeking to include drones as aircraft in the statute. And that way people can, all rules applying to aircraft would apply to drones, meaning you can't fly on the same day and hunt on the same day. But we are seeking to include drones as defined as an aircraft, and also removing the obligation for FWP to permit aircraft activity on forest land. We've never had that authority. We're not the landowner. We've never sought to have that authority. So we're asking to remove that authority as well as change the definition. LC 0738. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the WIP program, Wildlife Habitat Improvement Program. It sunsets this year, and we are seeking to repeal the termination date. As you know, it's a very, very popular program for landowners and for FWP. We do really, really good work, and we're just seeking to repeal that termination date. LC 0739. This is an interesting one. So right now, landowner preference for hunting licenses and permits for elk are in statute. They are not in statute for deer and antelope. So we are looking to authorize landowner preference for hunting licenses and permits for deer and antelope in statute. It's just something that I think was an oversight a long time ago. We've been doing this forever, as you know, and we're just seeking to get it into statute along with elk. This one's another real easy cleanup one, we think. LC 0740. Right now, college students must come into an office, FWP office, to purchase a hunting license. And that was because of residency, not residency requirements, but to demonstrate they are a college student here in Montana. We are asking to have them be able to purchase licenses online like anybody else. And it's just like veterans, they can upload a document showing that they are a college student here in Montana. It's an easy thing to do. We do it all the time for veterans. And so we're just asking that college students be able to purchase licenses online as well. LC 0741. Another very outdated statute. In the past, we've had licensed agents, we required licensed agents to have a surety bond for the revenue that collect on our behalf when they sell licenses. Right now, we sweep their bank accounts directly to us, so we do not need the surety bond requirement anymore. So we're just seeking to repeal that statute or that section. Another real exciting one is LC 0742. We missed this last session. The title is an act removing reference to a repealed non-resident snowmobile permit. So basically we just missed this section, and this section links to a repealed snowmobile permit that doesn't exist anymore. So we just are seeking to clean that up.
That was my fault. It was nice of you, Deb, not to say it though.
Yep. I wasn't going to point fingers, so. Right. LC 0743. This is an act allowing qualified Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Department employees to carry firearms to carry out their assigned duties. So this has nothing to do with wardens. Wardens, of course, are allowed to carry firearms, but other staff in the course of their day-to-day activities need to carry firearms. And we are asking that they are allowed to do that. And the director has committed to making sure that they go through a qualification annually. And these are only firearms that are owned by the department. These are not personal firearms. So we're just seeking for our staff to be able to do their jobs the way they need to do it, and making sure that we're safe and the liability is covered. LC 0744. Right now, somebody who is blind can obtain a lifetime fishing license, and they do not have to purchase any prerequisite licenses like a base hunting license or anything like that. So they can just purchase a lifetime fishing license, except that they're required to purchase an AIS prevention pass. This statute is seeking to exclude that requirement. So all they have to do is purchase a fishing license, a lifetime fishing license for the blind.
Deb, I'm sorry, I missed seeing that Paul has his hand up again. Paul, is that a new hand?
Oh, I just forgot to remove it, sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Just a few more. LC 0745. This is an act increasing the maximum annual block management program allowable payment to landowners. So this is increasing the cap. As you remember, last session, we increased it from 15,000 to 25,000. We are now seeking to increase it to 50,000. You're aware that our director has the authority to increase the per hunter per day, which is right now at $13. And if he does increase that, we're going to have landowners reach that cap a lot quicker. So we're seeking to increase that cap to 50,000 as well. That's two. So right now this is an ARM rule, and we're seeking to get this into statute as well to demonstrate our commitment to maintaining grizzly bear populations at levels to maintain delisted status. So once the grizzly bear populations are delisted, FWP is committed to maintaining those levels for delisted status. And so this will include all sources of mortality, including obviously death of a bear, but including translocation out of a population. We will also include that as a mortality and making sure that we maintain those levels to ensure delisted status. And the last one, this has nothing to do with the prison pheasant program. This is the Upland Game Bird Enhancement Program that I'm speaking to here. Right now, we are required for the money that is being put into that program, we're required to spend 25% or set aside 25% each year for game bird releases. And we are required to spend at least 15% of that every year for game bird releases. We have not been meeting, we've been in violation of this statute basically for a very long time. Landowners have not been as interested in the past few years as to release upland game birds on their property. So we just haven't been able to meet this statute. When we put out the environmental assessment for the prison pheasant program, we heard loud and clear that habitat enhancement was very, very important to our public. So the Upland Game Bird Council recommended that we amend that statute for the enhancement program. We amend the statute from being a shall to a may, but instead we are going to repeal that section, and all money will go to habitat enhancement or habitat work. That does not mean that game bird releases can't be included as part of that. They still can, but we're not requiring those game bird releases. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Deb? Seeing none. Obviously, LCO 745, the block cap. So the block management cap is of interest to us for sure.
And that one's been introduced already. Senator Steve Heinbaugh will be the sponsor for that. That's Senate Bill 58, just for everyone's awareness.
Yeah, and he is the chairman of the Senate Fish and Game Committee. So, and Hope, thank you for sending that out, copy of those bills. And Deb, thanks for the overview on this. if you notice, if you go and you start following our legislative stuff out there, we're at 143 unintroduced bills and 6 introduced bill, a total of 143 introduced and unintroduced bills right now. That's probably 30% more than we've seen in the past few sessions. There's a big, a varied amount of interest in licensing, non-residents, different things. So it'd behoove you to look at this, and it's on the legislative tracking. You can log into and look at it, find out what the bills look. Just put Fish and Game, it'll populate that, and follow along and see what's happening at the session, because it's there's gonna be a lot of stuff out there. I don't know where it's all gonna be coming from, but a lot of things on licenses, a lot of things on, not, like I said, non-residents, general and realized fish and wildlife and parks laws, tons of those. Yeah, a lot of stuff. So it's well worth the group to look at that. So any questions on legislation or what we're going or what's going forward right now?
I
So
have a-
Director, oh, go ahead, Dale.
So when the legislative session arrives, and in 2021, I spent lots of hours preparing testimony and testifying on different bills. If there are bills that we testify on that PLPW has endorsed, for example, Senate Bill 58, that increases the BMA cap to $50,000. Is it appropriate to say that, hey, I'm Dale Trivia, I'm a member of PLPW, and we have supported this as our advisory council? And then I guess the second question to that is, even if we haven't taken a stand as a group, is it appropriate to say, hey, I'm Dale Trivia and I am a member of PLPW, or does that imply too much that we formed a position on that? It'd just be helpful to get your input on that, Deb or Hank or somebody that might answer that. Thank you.
No, Dale, that's a really good question, because it's a tricky spot to be in on those things. Because, for this one, if you, exactly you talked about, you guys are all behind the cap, brought forward on that. I think there's no problem with that. But if there's a bill that was split and there's, one side, it was a 50-50 split on that, you really can't say the PLPW supported it. But you can say that you were a member of this, we discussed it, or things like that. But that's the art of doing this. And you're well aware of how to do those things. It's kind of that needle you have to thread to be in there, and just be aware of it.
Thanks, Hank.
And Dale, to your question, for those of you that don't normally go to the legislature and comment, obviously I would encourage you to comment on everything that affects you personally. And in that regard, obviously, to identify yourself individually. In regards to the council, I'm trying to figure out a way where, if certain issues arise that we've been dealing with, that would either be something we would already have supported or support because of our discussions, or oppose, that we would have a way to be able to do that with a unified voice. So I'm looking at that on a way we could do it that's effective. I do believe the legislature, particularly in committee that involves us directly, are very focused on what we've done, and definitely would like to hear from us. But if we are going to do that, we have to speak unified and clearly in that regard. I don't even know if that'll come up in a fashion that would require that, or where we would benefit as a committee to do that. But if it does, hopefully we'll have a way in place to do it, so it can be as effective as a committee can be. That's kind of where I see it. Obviously, we all get the chance to speak individually and clarify that it's an individual comment when you do that. Hopefully we can do it if necessary as a council. So we'll be looking at a method, if possible, to do it.
So that's a really good point, Chair. And what I'll do is I'll talk to Sarah and Hope about that and figure out a way, depending on what comes out of these 146 bills out there right now where it looks like we have no idea what the titles are. And it may be something that you guys have really worked hard on and are really passionate about. And we need to let figure out a way to make sure that we've got that, yes, they're behind this, everybody's behind this, and it's the voice of one coming to the legislature from the PLPW. So I think it's always a good tool. You've worked with it before when we've done that with the 140, when we had everybody stand behind that on the fee increase and have different people speak. It carries a lot more, to the chair's point, it carries a lot more weight to those committees.
Rich, I see your hand up.
I was just I clarify, because as a director of Montana Stock Growers, I have to say the same thing. I'm probably repeating this, but it's something when I go, I make sure I know who I'm representing. And if it's stock growers, then I have to have consent of the entire, whatever our policy is, I'm speaking on that. But as an individual, I have every right to go up there and say, I represent IX Ranch, my family, my person and all that stuff. So, but I guess I would definitely say, I do hope that, like I said, that when we have all this, that would be good coming from you, just having, okay, we have this all written down succinctly so that if we do come and testify, I'll be a legislative session, no doubt, on many issues dealing with ag industry. So it would be nice for our board to have something like that, to just know and be able to state clearly, because it might just be getting up there and saying one statement and that's all that it is, but they hear from us that way. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks for that, Rich. I mean, that's exactly right. And we'll have it in place by the time we get there. Any other questions or comments in regards to legislative previews? Seeing none. Okay. So we're doing great. We're ahead of the game here. I'm going to throw one thing in here. One of the comments that we had in the survey review was the potential for this council to format a public statement, if you will, to bring forward to clarify our actions as we've gone forward. So there were a number of those comments in an effort to help clarify to the public how we've come to a decision and communicate that for clarity. So as one example, how did we come to the recommendation that we made for block management cap increases? So to be able to communicate to the general public that this is how we came to that point, this is our recommendation to the department, and obviously it's going forward into the legislature, essentially to make that clear and understood as to why it came, at least on our part. That one is an easy one because there's a wide consensus on it. The second would be, and Paul has done a rough draft on this. It's the first draft. We'll try to bring that forward here between, I'd say, in the next week or so to have something finalized, but it would be a consensus statement that we would put forward on, such as the block management cap, and then potentially like on 454s, elk hunting access programs. How did we come to our recommendation for the change that's coming forward in the legislature, and then also the history of the success of that program? I know I, for one, have had plenty of people ask me in particular about those 454s and how did that happen and how did it come to be? And what I found is that when you explain it to them, there is less concern about how it came to be and how the improvements came to be and how the current status is. So Paul has started that. There is a letter that the department has looked at, and there's some more we need to add to that about going forward with the changes to the legislature. And we will bring that around to the full council to make sure it's a statement that everybody is good with. It's just a letter. The intent would be to make it public so people can understand at least those two issues. And then maybe we'll additionally add some comments about the three-legged stool or some of the other concerns we have and address that publicly, whether they go out in electronic media or to the newspapers, whatever we can do, I think, to broadcast that for understanding to the public. So that's in process, and I think by the end of next week, we can have something maybe finalized to send all of you to get your input on. Any comment?
Yeah, Ed, I have a comment real quick. I think it would be a great idea to elevate the profile of the PLPW and the work that we do here. When I was in Bozeman 2 weeks ago at the National Assembly of Sportsmen Caucuses, I met 7 or 8 of our state legislators, and only one of them really knew of the PLPW and what we did, and the rest just didn't. So I think that we do a lot of good work here. We have a lot of great conversations that people just don't know about. And so I think whatever we can do to help that, we should.
Thanks, Everett.
This will land us right in that territory of legal and I having a conversation about how best to proceed with these kinds of things. And so it might require jumping on a Zoom and having a quick public meeting to adopt a consensus document. So just be aware that we might be pinging you to do that on Zoom sometime soon.
Rich?
I was just going to add kind of what Everett said too. I think it's important to realize what Governor Gianforte and Lieutenant Governor Juris have really pushed forward with this kind of red tape initiative, and that all agencies and those that are associated with our committees and different commissions, that we are really kind of the feet on the ground, so to speak, that are helping drive policy, and that we are groups of recreationists, landowners, interested parties, and I think in a broad sense be able to kind of relay that we're really trying hard, and a lot these issues are hard. Like this is not an easy job to do, but we are the ones on the ground. And so I think I would just like to state, some way to kind of, and it maybe sounds a little fluffy, but to try to follow that suit of the red tape initiative that the governor's put forward, that we're really trying to move progressive legislation ahead in this process.
Great comment. Thanks, Rich. Director Warsack.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that, Rich. I really appreciate that. And that's one of the things I want to focus on is with the governor is the expansion of access and when things are happening. We're just putting together some numbers on, we just had the big snowies. We had some other ones together. We put a little over 7,200,000 acres, over 7,000 acres recently on this, and we want to make sure we kind of showcase this, and also want to showcase what's happening with the PLPW and these different groups, how we're continuing to work together. It is, from my perspective, PLPW has always been kind of an unsung hero that behind the scenes doing a lot of good work, and we need to showcase that. So I may even invite the governor to one of the meetings and have it kind of recorded and do those things to show the people, the commitment that people have to come to this and the hard topics they talk about. Because I don't think you're absolutely right. And to Everett's point, I was out at that meeting too. A lot of people have no idea what's going on with PLPW and what the good work that is done by all the people involved and the time associated with that, time it takes to have these meetings and the commitment. So yes, I'd like to really, really push that and get that front and center. I hope you guys don't mind if we're going to be on camera.
Very good. Any other thoughts? Okay. Eric?
No, I'm good.
I think when you move, Eric, it comes up and then we know we need to hear from you. All right. So that'll be happening. And what's next? Looks like we have some time. So maybe, do we want to? No, I don't think so. What else would you like to discuss for a bit here? If there's anything, any burning subject right before you to bring forward?
Question. At our past meetings, when we talked about the educational videos and some type of carrot to get people to talk about those or to partake in those. One of the things that came out of the council was how can we reward these people, or what's the incentive to get people to take these classes? And Fish, Wildlife and Parks was going to do some follow-up and look a little more into bonus points. And there were, if I remember right, Director Warsek brought up several concerns that they had, whether they were lifetime, how you track them, all of that kind of stuff. I'm just wondering if the department has moved on that any further, and if they're trying to have some answers to bring to us at another time.
So Dale, good question. And actually, I'm going to meet with Greg and Wade tomorrow on kind of the hunter education thing. That will be part of the topic again, to see where we're going moving forward on this. But I do, you heard me say before that I didn't really wasn't a fan of forcing people to do these things, taking it more of an incentive thing. But after talking about the block management part of it, that's a privilege more than just a right. I mean, you got somebody paying for block management and you're taking advantage of this. So to respect and do this, I wouldn't mind making that a mandatory course. That like the bear ID. So I'm going to talk about those things too and look at that type of stuff. And I think that feeds right into that kind of the hunter ethics thing. It helps with that too. But I think there's all, so it's that one Montana idea, these other ideas, but for the block management and the chair and I talked yesterday about it, and actually both chairs, chair of this and the chairman of the commission. And I think there's some merit and some things worth pushing on that. And, get people in tune to understand what the block management is and what it took to get this and what you have, the privilege you have by being on that, and not abuse it and not run into problems like I'm hearing about in region 6 now, where people are abusing it big time, cutting fences, like I said, and cutting heads off a deer and all kinds of stuff. That's just getting too Western out there. And we got to control it. And I go to Paul's point too. We as sportsmen, we have to police our own ranks. We got to, so how do we get that out there too? And I really like the billboards that are going up, respect the land, respect the hunt, all those things. So I think we're really heading in the right direction. Just how we got the incentive movement, how do we get this thing going and more to it? Does that help?
It does. And for me, and I think I expressed this before, I'm not opposed to incentivizing taking or getting some type of a benefit for taking it, but at the same time, we really need to be careful and not just adopt something without a lot of thought going into it.
Agreed.
I guess the one thing that you said, Director, is that, boy, I like the idea of block management, provided that cooperator is amenable to it. I'd hate to say, you can't hunt a block management area unless you've taken that class, especially if that's not what that cooperator would like. But moving it beyond block management too is, it's
oh yeah,
public land user. I think there's at least as many issues.
Can you just run it through without me changing it?
We can hear you, Paul. Yeah, so I know we've gone two directions in that, and I think where the Hunter Ed landowner stewardship update, where they all go is,
okay,
does that program require a course to be taken?
That'd be great.
It's incentivized. And I think maybe I see a fork in the road. So I think it's great. And you guys know I fully support that concept. One other small thing I've been thinking about with the short, quick messages. I've been doing these really short ads in my business for marketing, they're 15 seconds and they're quick. And everywhere I go, people tell me how much they see them. I do 2 15s really fast and they're the same message, but they're only 15 seconds. My point is, I think we can do things on the website that are very quick that make a point. You know, when you Google anything and click on it, the first thing you get is an ad and there's a skip ad button. You could do a 15-second comment about any one issue specific, not a broad issue, and they can't click out of it. So just another thought, preempting, once you get on My Hunt Planner or My FWP or whatever it is, just a very quick message, you know, buckle your seatbelt, you know, shut the gate. Don't, you know, whatever the message is, just over and over and over. I think in the educational aspect of the website application, you go to punch your tag, you know, and it says whatever's relevant to that issue. So I see Rich has his hand up.
Just really quick back to what was what Hank had said earlier on the whole, you know, the requirement thing. I just wanted to say, I don't think it's anything where we have to require people to do anything. It really is what we're doing right now, the respect on what you're talking about, Ed. I think it's just the continuing education. You know, people are already kind of fed up with just mandatory type things that they're having to do. So I just wanted to quickly say, if that's a really strong direction it's going, I guess I would say, I hope that it doesn't have to go that way. I think it's just doing what we're doing now and finding out ways. And I think what you'd mentioned earlier, Hank, about having or suggesting that those block management holders come into a meeting, I think that's a hugely great idea. I think in one meeting, you'd probably have all the answers, or at least a lot of the answers you'd be looking for in terms of what you think is working, what's not. Because like I said, it's probably one of the feathers in the hat of the state in terms of programs. So getting them together, you'd find that out.
You know, appreciate that.
So Rich, just one comment to that. You know, the One Montana program and such that's been going on. There's so much traction now with that kind of educational support and how it benefits the landowners that participate in it from the issues that they have wanted addressed. That's really where that program is born out of, you know, is making hunters understand the game, efficient concepts and such. And those landowners are very engaged in it. It's a very small test pilot, in my opinion, because it's not of scale to deal with the numbers that we have across the state that everybody's concerned about in Region 6 and 7 and in this year in your case. So I know we've gone back and forth about this a lot, and not just this particular council. It's gone before, and I know we don't want to require it, but it somehow has to come before all hunters. And yes, we all know that it should be extended across the private boundary to the public boundary in how we all recreate in every aspect of the way we do it. And it's a critical thing as we see more pressure and more activity in it. It's just bearing in a greater capacity than it used to. So I appreciate your comment. And I mean, I don't like requirements either, but every good thing has an initial investment, it seems to me. And that's just all I'd say. Everett has his hand up too.
Yeah, I would just say, I commend the director and the department trying to find a solution here. I'm definitely a proponent for carrot versus stick. And if we can find a way to put this together so it's incentive based, great. But if not, we have to go to the stick. I'm really okay with that too, because I think that if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're just going to get the same result, right? So I'm really looking forward to some new solutions, and if it doesn't work, we can scrap it at some point. So we've talked a lot about it. I just want to continue to voice my support for that.
Thanks, Everett. Any additional comments on this or other? Okay. I need to take a break.
Take a,
Take like
do 10 minutes.
10 minutes. And then
Yeah,
we'll come
let's take a
back.
break. I'll pause the recording and we'll get going at 10:50.
Okay,
Sure. Thank you.
thank you. I drank too much.
Can you hear us now?
Rich
Great.
can.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we're up and rolling again.
Okay, so I think we've got just a few minutes till public comment, but I think if you're all good with it, we'll get right to that. Everybody good? So Mackenzie, would you like to bring that up and see where we're at?
Yes, thank you. At this time, if you're ready to make public comment, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, Montana Wildlife Federation.
Go ahead. Thank you. If you're speaking, we don't hear you yet, MWF. Did they need to unmute?
They are unmuted, but we're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go, Marcus. I can hear you.
You would think as young as I am, I could get this technology thing figured out.
Oh man.
Mr. Chair and members of the council, as always, it is a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Marcus Strange. I'm the State Policy and Government Relations Director for the Montana Wildlife Federation. I just wanted to hop on here very briefly and express our profound gratitude for the good work that you all have done over the last year. It has been a pleasure to be with you in person as well as virtually and to follow the work that you're doing. There's a lot of good solutions coming out of this council, and I appreciate the willingness to listen and come up with innovative and collaborative solutions. Additionally, I'd like to pass on similar feelings from the Montana Citizens Elk Management Coalition, of which MWF is a member. The organizations in that coalition are very grateful for your work as well. We're excited about many things you're working on, specifically the block management proposal to raise the cap is very exciting for us. We are very grateful for the cooperators that participate in that program. And we feel like this is a good way to, first of all, thank them. And then secondly, make sure that the impacts that they are experiencing from having the public frequent their land is adequately compensated. So we look forward to supporting that proposal during the legislative session and any other good proposals that you bring forward. Again, thank you all. It really is truly a pleasure to get to work with you and look forward to continuing that over the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Any questions for Marcus from the council? All right. Thanks again.
I do not
Marcus.
see any hands raised.
Okay. Any additional public comment?
No, Chair.
All right. Well, we appreciate, I guess, MWF being on there and supporting what we're going forward with. So I guess we're at a point where we can have some final comments. Is there any other, since we took that little break, any other comment that you would like to bring in that we missed or you missed an opportunity on? Okay. So again, we'll be bringing forward those 2023 goals. We'll be bringing forward a statement for your viewing and consensus to potentially print publicly or go publicly with about our work. Let's see what else coming up, and a way to be involved effectively in the legislature if necessary, as a single strong voice. And again, just to emphasize, obviously all of you should do that individually in your own capacities where you see the need. I definitely recommend it. It's always informative to the legislature and to their efforts. And yeah, we've got a great state to be able to do that in. We have we're fortunate because our voice can be heard individually or collectively. So I just encourage you to do that where you see things come up that you have insight and passion or direction for. So with that, I will just go around for final comments. Starting with Kearney.
I don't have any comments, just Merry Christmas, everybody, and I look forward to watching the sessions and see what comes out of it.
Thank you, Tierney. Rod?
No, not much. I think we're headed in the right direction with landowner relations and whatnot. I think if we can get that cap raised to 50, that'd be huge. Yeah, and again, concentrate on the stiffer fines and penalties if that comes up to get some of this thwarted off. So I think we'd be really headed in the right direction then. So that's it. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thanks, Rod. Rich?
No, I'm good with everybody else. Merry Christmas, everybody. See you at legislative session.
Thanks, Rich. Ray? Still out there, Ray? Don't hear him. How about Paul?
Yeah, I just want to say it was a pleasure working with everybody, and don't have much more to add right now, and you all have a Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Paul. Everett?
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate getting to know everybody over the past year. I think it's been really beneficial for me for perspectives and forming relationships and friendships too. And so I look forward to our time together, even when we're not talking about policy or whatnot. And I think we've got a really good group that has the ability to ask hard questions and give hard answers, but still retain, cordiality that's pretty rare in our culture these days. So I'm very pleased with us and what we're doing and happy to be part of that. And again, Merry Christmas to everybody else as well.
Thanks, Everett. Eric? Still out there, Eric? Is he muted?
He is muted. Let me ask him to unmute.
Unmute the Eric.
Eric.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
I could hear myself speaking, but apparently nobody else could. I just think
Sound
that
one man clapping.
as we go forward here this next month or month and a half before we meet again, we should all be kind of thinking a little bit about how to address some of the overcrowding issues that we're facing here in state, and still kind of keep our eye on some of these elk issues as well, and keep working on ideas of a different type of block management and how it may work. Other than that, I don't really have anything. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you, Eric. Drew?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, FWP folks, thanks for the opportunity this last year. I don't have a lot to add other than Everett's podcast, Elevate the Hunt. If somebody's looking for something to listen to when they're driving, you should tune into Everett's podcast. And he does a great job of addressing some of these issues on a different platform. Again, spurring more thought and conversation in the future.
Thank you, Drew. Donna?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and everyone else on the council. It's been an honor to work with you all. We're a large group with a lot of different ideas and thoughts that we brought to the table, and we worked well together, I felt, to come up with solutions to help not only the hunters, but the landowners. And so I think for access issues and working on more law enforcement issues, I think as a group, we really made some large strides this year. So no, I was honored to work with you all. So Merry Christmas and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Donna. Dale?
I too would like to say thanks. One of the things that this group has helped me. I mean, I obviously am not shy of speaking up, but it's been really beneficial for me to hear from other people, the landowners, the outfitters, the other sportsmen, and just maybe get more information to where they're coming from on different things. That's been helpful for me. And I just look forward to what the next year or next 2 years or 3 years brings and continue on with this process. And as everybody else has said, have a Merry Christmas. And for some of you, may see you at the legislature, but if not, we will visit in February.
Thanks, Dale. How about Cindy?
Hey, Ed, I forgot to mention CWD, because there's CWD here in Region 3. It's creeping closer and closer, coming up from Cardwell. So that's a concern. I just want to make clear, this became a problem in the last legislature. If there was kind of a form letter that a group sent out and people changed it and sent it in, there was some verbiage that indicated that it might be ignored because it was a crafted form-like letter, even though individually you sent it in. So I don't think those should be ignored, even though they might be crafted by someone else. If you've signed it, then sort of like voting. I've had a good time being on this council, and I look forward to working with everybody in the new year, and Merry Christmas.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. I see the director. He must have some final comments.
Well, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate everybody's efforts on this. I know these are thankless jobs, and I do want to elevate what this council does, because to me, it really, you do make a difference on these things, and there a lot of the stuff that people just don't see. And my whole goal since I've taken this position is to be as transparent as we can and see what's going on, and let the people know that we just had a good meeting. I know Dale was there in Region 7 about mule deer. And I want to do more and more of that with throughout the state to get people talking, because the only way we're going to come up with solutions is getting people talking together on different issues, and finding out that we have a lot more in common sometimes than we have in disagreements with, and coming up with ideas. So I'll continue pushing that. And once again, I thank everybody for their time, their efforts, and their dedication to doing a good job on this. And I think you guys really moved the needle. So I appreciate that. And with that, I'll just say a Merry Christmas to everybody and look forward to continuing working with you.
Thank you, Director. I do want to pop in over there with Jason and Stephanie in Caldwell. Can you give us kind of a final recap or anything you can share coming out of your most recent work?
Our work here at the Access Managers Retreat. So we're really fortunate. We have every access manager here from throughout the state, as well as a couple of former access managers who are now serving in different roles within FWP. So we've been able to have some really great discussions, doing some visioning work for the work that we want to tackle over the next year, 3 years, 6 years, and also just talking about this one menu concept. So without getting into too much details, I guess, it's just been very vibrant conversations and a good time for the access managers to get together, share some of the challenges we're having, and also the wins. So really focusing on the positive and how we're going to be moving forward here over the next year to 6 years.
Thank you for that, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Jason, we'd be remiss not to hear from you as we kind of wrap up this year.
Sure. Just want to echo all the comments that the directors made, that you guys all have made. I know hunting season is not typically easy for producers or landowners, regardless if you're in our programs or not. So just wanted to extend an appreciation to all the landowners, especially private landowners, who are willing to tolerate or even extend an opportunity for access across the state. I know I took advantage of some opportunities, so just wanted to say a special thanks for that, and really appreciate working with this group. You guys have gelled so much over the last year, and it's really cool to see the projects that you've been working on, can continue to work on, and then also the passion that you have for these areas. It's a really dedicated group, and I really appreciate your willingness to be engaged on a variety of levels, whether it be Zoom or in person, or just making those long night travels to Helena and back. It's just really comforting and an enjoyable experience for me to interact with all of you. So thank you all for what you do, both individually and outside this council, but then also your work here on the council.
And Merry
Thank you,
Christmas to
Jason.
everybody too.
Thank you. Yeah, so a couple of things, kind of reiterating, but this is a very diverse group, and I very much appreciate the fact that everybody participates in their own way from what they bring, where they're at in their life, operation and recreation, all of it. I mean, that's not easy to do, and come forward and work together and bring important comment to the solutions that we seek. So I commend you. You know, everybody's in a different place. I mean, I enjoyed some great block management this year over near us that are aggregates, and it gave me a lot to think about as we go forward in talking about a deeper dive in block management and how that could be improved. It's been successful when I look over here, and then when I go to Region 7 or 6 and I see some of the issues you all bring up, it's very, very different. So how we come together to take all those different points of view into consideration and come with some things that help the wins become better wins. You know, obviously we've all seen this staff do a great job of trying to think how to make the opportunities the best. And we're just here a little bit doing this. I know we're living where we're living, and we're experiencing it the way we do on our own places and business and in our activities. These folks are doing it every day, and I, for one, know that they're working hard to make it work the best. And I think we've all seen that. And you know, I think that's another thing we can share with people in our regions, to let people know that there's an effort being made that's in the right direction. It's not always perfect, but it's being made. So thank all of you for that, the staff of FWP, and each of you as council members, giving your time, thought, and effort to it. As we go forward, I was thinking about the next place we should host this, and I'm going to put somebody on spot. Donna, I think we should hold this at the Upper Canyon Lodge next time when you're not doing anything in your busy business world. So
Make that a public meeting.
yeah, we'd make that a public meeting.
Well, I
So I
would be
don't know.
happy to, but February, all our cabins are winterized, so we could certainly revisit it for a May meeting. But yeah, I would be very happy to do that. We have a conference room and lodging available for everyone, and a pretty remarkable chef that will fill all your tummies. So yeah, keep you happy.
I can tell you it's a nice place.
Get all
Yeah, Hank, you've been here before.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a great place.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
so maybe we can incorporate that somehow, Donna, as an idea. I know that's a hand grenade, but you know, I just think of it with what you've got going on there, and how you guys are doing it, and you and Jake managing that operation to the best benefit of everybody you're involved with. So maybe we can make that happen. I don't know.
All right, well, we'll work together.
Yeah. So again, thank you all. I wish you the very best Christmas, and hopefully the rest of the winter isn't too severe either for us or the deer. We know it's a reality. So best to you all.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Have one,
Have a
Rod
great-
has his hand up. I don't know
Oh, I'm
if he's
sorry,
still
Rod.
available.
I just want to tell Ed, thank you for, he's done a great job as a chair. He runs these meetings phenomenal, very organized, and thank you, Ed, for doing that.
I would
Thank
check.
you, Rod.
Thanks, Ed.
Appreciate all of you.
Yep.
Merry Christmas.
You too.